you guys. Today's video is for my beginners and also for anybody who maybe wasn't properly explained how to execute a proper shimmy. I find many teachers, especially teachers 10-20 years ago, it was very common for the shimmy to just be taught very vaguely, very shake your butt, follow the bounce. So I hope this will help you. If you have any questions, just please let me know and let's get started. Okay, so the most fundamental aspect of the shimmy is to understand the movement pathway. And for our basic vertical shimmy, that movement pathway is up and down. So to just basic baby beginner, what you want to do is think of bending your knees. This is very important because when we lift the hip up, the leg is going to follow it unless we have the plie or the knee bend. Then when we lift the hip, the knee will straighten and it will absorb that movement. It gives us that isolated hip lift. So try that out a few times because that is the essential movement behind the shimmy, that vertical hip lift. Now for a shimmy, what a lot of people try to do is they kind of get this down and then they try to go faster, faster, faster. Right left, right left, right left, right left, right left, right left, right left. The problem is that this is a sharp or a staccato movement and the shimmy is actually a soft movement. So the difference there, I'm going to come a little closer. The difference between the sharp and the soft, we have a sharp movement. You can have a lock or a bounce where it hits off. But a soft movement follows that movement pathway without any sharpness in there. So the soft movement is like this. So I'm going to show you the actual slow motion version of the shimmy. So my knees are bent. You can see my body lowering down. This will allow my hips to move vertically. Then I'm going to lift a very small amount. So not going to our full range of motion, not even close. Just a small little lift. 1, 2, 1, 2. The movement is coming from here. These are your oblique muscles. You're going to pull your hip bone with your oblique muscle. Lift, lift. So imagine little puppet strings here. Up, 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 up. Notice for this movement, I'm not twisting on the diagonal or flat. If your knees are straight, this is going to produce either this twist shimmy or you're going to be picking up your heels awkwardly. Okay? So lifting in here, this does take a little bit of time. So I'm going to back up and show you the very basic way to start to understand the movement. But I want it to be clear that as you learn the movement, you need to take the legs out of creating the movement. They follow the movement. We want the movement to originate here and be supported by the legs. So the knees are in the deep plie, probably deeper than you think you need it. And if you straighten one leg, that is going to push your hip bone upward. All right. So the basic mechanic there is essentially the same. I'll show you the difference at full speed though. So here is a knee shimmy that's pushing from my legs without any fuel from here. So I am getting movement in my hips, but there's a lot of movement elsewhere as well. This is one of the downsides. The other downside is a lot of wear and tear on your knees. You never want to lock your knee back. If you're doing this, you're gonna get arthritis eventually and you're gonna get patellar tendonitis, so just stop it, okay? So what we wanna do instead is plie, tuck those hips using your psoas, pulling your hip bones back, and then you're gonna use your oblique muscles. Ready? Small little movements. See how this is originating only here. My legs aren't even moving that much. There's a little movement here and there. And then we slowly speed it up. So we would start 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. And then a little faster. So quickly going through do's and don'ts. We kind of already touched on them, but let's just recap, all right? Do not try to do a vertical shimmy with your legs straight. That will pick up your heels. That's when we get the people who can't shimmy without their heels coming up and down, okay? Do not slam your knee back. Do not lock your knees, like so. Do not allow your back to sway. So the tailbone should never point back behind you. Find your tailbone. That tailbone needs to face the floor. So that when you do your shimmy, that is a vertical movement. So when you see from the sides there, like so. Do make sure to keep your toes and your heels on the floor, knees in a soft plie, elongate your back, keep everything lifted. Do make sure that this is a soft movement and not a sharp one. So practice speeding up your soft contraction. Do make your shimmy small, especially to start. A lot of people really struggle with getting their shimmy to the size, speed, and consistency that they want. You just need to push through this. There's really no other way to do it. You have to do the work. You have to teach your body how to do it. These are all the basic components. It's very simple, actually. There are many more movements in belly dancing that are much more complex and call on a lot more muscle groups. This is a fairly simple, in theory, movement. The difficulty comes in the coordination of doing it for a sustained period of time. Do make sure that you are relaxed in your lower body. This takes some practice too. So you're pressing into the quads. They're sustaining all the weight, and the hip muscles and the pelvic floor muscles have to breathe a sigh of relief. So imagine, take a deep breath in and release all those muscles except for what you're using to hold your posture and keep your plie. And then try your shimmy. And I don't know how well you can see, but there's a lot of ripple, a lot of reaction here. If I'm squeezing and if I'm tense in my legs, that's not really going to happen so much. So you really have to think of relaxing the outside of the leg and the glute, but keep the low back and the torso engaged, and then relax the pelvic floor muscles.